What's going on, guys? Coach Madden, YouGoProBaseball.com, and today we're going to talk about the 5 things that I learned in professional baseball that really helped me be a better pitcher and took my game to the next level. And if you implement these 5 things, they could really help you out now too, no matter how old you are. It took me until I got the pro ball to figure this out, and I want to share them with you right now. Here we go. Number 1 was how to overcome failure quicker, because in pro ball, unlike college and high school ball, you're playing every single day. And guess what? In a game of failure, you're gonna have failures, right? It makes sense. The greatest hitters in the game fail 7 out of 10 times, right? As a pitcher, maybe I didn't have that as much, and I like to think of myself as a good pitcher, so I tried to stay away from failure. And of course, that's your whole goal in the game, is try to have as much success as you can, but it is a game of failure. And because we're playing every night in professional baseball, I had to learn how to get over that failure a lot quicker. For example, I was a closer in professional baseball. I remember one time being up there, we had like a 3-run lead. Obviously, closer comes in. If you're winning by 3 runs or less, you try to save the game. That's the whole job of a closer. I got in there with a 3-run lead, which is a big cushion for a closer for 1 inning, and I blew the game. And I remember being beat up about this. But guess what? The next day, we had to play the same team, and I had to close the game again. So I really learned how to overcome failures a lot quicker. And you have to do this, right? One thing I talk about in my program, Confidence Booster, is something that I did when I went into the shower. And I would imagine after the game, I like to think about what happened, what I could do better, what's my plan of action for the week coming ahead to do better and to get better and overcome this failure. But once I got in the shower, I like to imagine that water just going over my head, down my body, and through the drain, out in the drain, and wherever that water goes, right? And I would imagine that experience. After I analyzed it and came up with a plan of what I'm gonna do next, I imagined it going away. And once that happened, I got out of the shower and I'm a new man. I'm ready for that next game already. I don't go home and keep thinking about it. I don't let it get me down. I don't let it get me depressed. I'm ready to go right after I get out of the shower. I know what I gotta do. I'm gonna do it. Next day, guess what? Came in the game, had to close with a 1-run lead, and I got to save that game. The second thing I learned was how to get lefties out. Now, I was a right-handed pitcher, and I was a sinker ball slider guy, and later in my career, I added a forkball, which we'll talk about later. But as a righty sinker slider guy, it was easy for me to get righties out. In fact, when a righty came up, I was happy. I was like, all right, go ahead and put it in the scorebook. This guy is out. That's how confident I felt against righties. But when a lefty got in there early in my career, I just felt defeated. I felt like they had already won the battle, and it was a struggle for me. So learning how to pitch to lefties, for me, for you, you may like pitching to lefties. Maybe you need to learn how to pitch to righties, or maybe you need to learn how to pitch to the power hitters. Whatever it is, it's gonna be different for every guy. But learning how to get stronger at some of my weaknesses is what I'm talking about here. For me, it was pitching to lefties. So all I did was, I learned that because my sinker ball was moving this way, a lot of those lefties would just lean out over the plate and try to smack that ball into left center, right? And they did a good job of that because they just saw it coming in, sinking. Even though it was a great pitch, they just stayed on it and shot it out there. So what I started to do was bust them in early with a fastball, and I'd flatten it out. I wouldn't throw a sinker. I'd throw a 4-seam up and in. So now, instead of diving out here trying to hit that sinker, they see that fastball up and in here. Now I just messed up their balance, right? They're not gonna be comfortable in there. I just busted 96 miles an hour up at their hands, at their chest. They're not gonna wanna dive in on that next one and try to go get that sinker, right? So I wouldn't even try to throw that pitch for a strike. Just early in the count somewhere, whether it was first pitch or second pitch, I'd bust that 96 up in their hands, and then the rest of the at-bat, sinker, slider, whatever it was, then I could play around and get them out. And that was a huge benefit, learning how to pitch to lefties. Again, for you, you may be fine pitching to lefties. Maybe it's pitching to righties. Maybe it's pitching to shorter guys. Maybe it's holding runners. I don't know what it is. But learn how to get better at your weaknesses so they're not weaknesses anymore. Number 3, I learned how to get prepared better. And preparation is huge in baseball because I see so many guys that they ask me about arm pain. I'm having arm pain, And to me, it all goes back to, were you prepared enough? Most of the guys that I hear this question from are jumping into their season and they start letting it fly. They weren't prepared enough to throw the amount of throws they're about to do. Now, when I was in pro ball, obviously when you get to spring training, you've got a whole month to get ready before the season. And in the beginning of my pro career, I would just go to spring training, kind of, I was a little bit in shape. I was playing catch a little bit. And then I would use spring training to get ready. But then I learned that's not how it is. You're trying to make a team. Spring training is a tryout. So then I started coming into spring training top shape, the best I could possibly be. I was being so prepared. Then I didn't have to deal with arm soreness. I didn't have to deal with those first few weeks of not feeling good or my legs being dead, whatever it was. So being prepared is huge. And no matter what you're doing, whether you're a hitter, pitcher, no matter what it is, you have to be prepared. You have to look into the future, know what's coming up in your baseball. If it's a tryout, let's say, you got a tryout in February, let's say we're in February, maybe it's mid-February, you got a couple weeks. Let's reverse engineer that and say, okay, we got this many days. This is what I'm gonna do every single day to get prepared and get ready for my tryout or for my first outing or for my showcase or for whatever you got going on. Preparation is key. Number 4, and we talked about it a little bit before, but that's how to throw the forkball. And I didn't learn how to throw the forkball until professional baseball, and it was just another pitch that helped me get batters out. And maybe learning the forkball is not for you, but what my point is, I want you to mess around with different pitches, right? For me, it was beneficial because I threw a sinker and a slider, and they were really good pitches. They came out of the same slot, and they looked opposite of each other, but the forkball gave me a different look. I could kind of make it bounce around, go straight down, bounce around, go glove side, bounce around, go arm side. So for me, it was a great pitch to disrupt batters' timing, and I used it for that. Although my slider was a great pitch to do that as well. In fact, my slider was ranked #1 in the San Diego Padres organization out of all the pitchers, as well as my sinker was also ranked #1 out of all the pitchers in San Diego Padres organization. And the forkball just complemented them and gave me another look, or gave the batters another look at something that I could throw at them to disrupt that timing and disrupt their balance. It just made me more effective as a pitcher having that third pitch. Now, if you've got a few pitches, obviously you want to play around with, a different pitch. Maybe it's not a forkball that you're going to throw. Maybe it's a curveball or a variation of your changeup. Or if you don't have a changeup, adding a changeup in, right? So just play around with the pitches, mess around with them, play with them on flat ground, then try to bring them into the bullpen. And then, as you're having success with it, you can make it a pitch. Now, one thing I do see is a lot of young guys is they'll have like 7, 8 different pitches. Don't do that. You want to get rid of the garbage ones, keep the ones that are really good, and have maybe 3 or 4 really good pitches. And number 5, I learned how to trust the process. And what I mean by that is in pro baseball, you've got a lot of things going on. You've got your team dynamic that you're playing on, right? And there's a lot of levels in the minor leagues. And guys are moving up, guys are moving down, guys are getting released, guys are getting called up to the big leagues. And these are all people you know, right? And it's real easy to get emotional about that. It's real easy to have a good game and let your highs get real high. It's real easy to have a bad game like we talked about before and let your lows get real low. There's so much going on in professional baseball, and I had to learn to trust the process. Not let my highs get too high, not let my lows get too low. And that goes for everyone, right? You have to stay even keeled. You have to know what you're doing and trust the process. Now, when I say trust the process, I don't mean just sit back and go, hey, whatever is gonna happen is gonna happen. No. You gotta work hard, of course, right? It comes down to working hard, but that's part of the process. Working hard is part of your process, right? If getting in the training room every day is part of your process, then you gotta do that. All the things that that you need to do, you just need to do them on a repetitive, consistent basis, and that's the process in which you need to trust. So it's like, go through that every single day, but don't be like, when am I going to get there? When am I going to get the call up? How come this guy went up and I didn't go up? How come he got released? And you can't worry about that. Trust the process, put in the work that that you need to put in, and believe in it, right? Do what you got to do and make the best of it. That's trusting the process. I hope you guys liked this video. I know it was all over the place, the 5 tips, kind of different stuff, but if you did like it, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. Got some really good stuff coming up with some collabs. Check all the links down below and comment. I'll talk to you down there.